Hello and welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today we're going to be having a look at a collaboration puzzle that was recently crafted on our Discord server. We've had several recommendations to look at this already. It's got a great rating on Logic Masters Germany and it's supposed to be doable, so do make sure you have a try. Now I like these collaborations because I'm always sort of left wondering who's added which clue to the puzzle. And some of the constructors behind this one will be names very familiar with you. So let me read them out. Is Shye, of course, whose Exocet classic I did the other day, an extraordinary puzzle. Tob Snibbob, which is a reversal of Bobbin's Bot, who is a sort of doyen of the Discord server. Nityant Agarwal, Ricky Cruz and Leyrann. Leyrann, who had his debut on the channel just the other day in a puzzle that Mark did. So all of those constructors, those 5, are behind the puzzle you see on the screen, which is called Atoll Bridge. And I'll read you the rules in a moment. A few things to mention first. Earlier on today, we released Lucy Odrin's setting video on the channel, so do check that out if you want to improve your setting skills. There is no better way. We're already receiving Sudokus, really good Sudokus from people who've basically learnt to set by watching the video series, so it's really fantastic. On Patreon, we have more correct solvers for Matyas Martinka's extraordinary puzzle hunt. Special congratulations actually go to Kadir Ekman, who wrote to me a few days ago asking if I'd wish his girlfriend a happy birthday if he managed to finish the hunt correctly. Well, he did that yesterday, so Kadir, it's the least I can do. It's a very hard hunt and it just shows the power of love that you managed to get through it. So happy birthday, Dylan, and I hope you have a super day. Also, very well done to Jay McCleary and Glenn Broadway, who've also completed the hunt in the last few hours. Now, a big thank you from us to John Appleseed for his incredibly generous Patreon donation yesterday. John, thank you very much for that. Now, something quite special in the offing that we hope we'll be able to share with you all soon. Now, Eva Kuchen over on Discord had the idea of creating a Sudoku Murder Mystery Hunt. And so basically this is a set of Sudoku puzzles all linked with a proper story, and there's a group of setters who have been working to make this a reality. Setters like Alice, Sci-Fi Fan, James Peter, who you might know as Maverick JD over on Discord, Scott Strosal, Mad Mahogany, Max Renock, Sam Testings and No Feet McGee. Well, they've all basically collaborated and created what is a beautiful hunt. It really is. And we're planning to release this free on Patreon. So it'll be available to everybody, but we're going to try and reach a milestone over on Patreon first. So when we reach 5,000 patrons, we are going to release that hunt immediately. And as of today, I think we're at 4,500 or something like that. So there is a little way to go. But Patreon is the way we keep the channel going. So if you've ever considered joining, now is the time, because there is this murder mystery hunt in the offing. And with all that said, let's get back to this collaboration and I'll read you the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. In cages, digits must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the cage. Digits may not repeat within a cage, so normal killer Sudoku rules. Along thermometers, of which there is 1, I think, digits must increase from the bulb end. So just make sure this is the lowest digit. Let's make that 2, and you've got to increase as you move up the thermometer. You don't have to increase in units of 1. You can jump digits, but you just have to make sure, like mercury, you rise as you move up the thermometer. Digits on a black dot must have a ratio of 1 to 2, and digits on a white dot must be consecutive. So we've got, I think, 1 black dot and 2 white dots in the grid. Not all possible dots are given, okay, and cells with a grey circle have to be odd, so those 2 squares are odd. And cells with a grey square have to be even, so those 2 squares have to be even. That's all the rules. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. First place my eyes are drawn is the 40 cage, because that's a big 40 cage, 7 cells. So, because of the secret, now, if you've not watched Cracking the Cryptic before and you don't know the secret, this is going to be a revelation to you. what do those 9 digits add up to? What do these 9 digits add up to? What do those 9 digits add up to? Well, in each case, you're looking at one of the digits 1 to 9 once each. So if you add up the digits 1 to 9, you get 45. Now, in a cage, we know you can't repeat a digit. So the 7 cells in this 40 cage are all different. So if we extend this cage, if it was a 9-cell cage, we know it would add up to 45. So a 7-cell cage must be missing 2 digits that add up to 5. So it's either missing 2 and 3 or 1 and 4. And no, I don't know which ones it's missing. This thermometer I don't think is long enough to be interesting. Yeah, you can see this could be as high as 5 actually, and as low as 1. So there are several degrees of freedom. Mark would say 4 degrees of freedom on this thermometer, and I'm not pencil marking it. Mark would be instantly in there with all the options. Nope, I won't do it. Oh, 7 cage. Golly, didn't see that. 1, 2, and 4 into that cage. Okay, so maybe the 5 cage would have to be... So I'm just wondering if we can create a quadruple or something in one of these rows. 1, 2, 4, 5 in a 6 cage. Ah, there's a Kropki dot, look, linking this square to this square. So that square's got to be relatively small. Still not quite good enough though, is it? Oh, well, I can now see this Kropki dot is a little bit constrained, because if this is a 1, if you put a 1, 2, 3 or 4 in either of these 2 squares, you'll break column 8. Because there will then be 6 digits in this column that have to be selected from the 5 digits 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and that isn't nonsense. You'll have to repeat one of them. So those 2 squares have to be at least equal to 5, which is not really putting pressure on the 14 cage, to be honest. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's have a look at this 15 cage, because we actually know this digit is odd. So we know that's a 7 or a 9, and that's a 6 or an 8. There are only 2 ways of making a domino add up to 15, 7 and 8 or 6 and 9. So once we limit this to the odd digit, we get a bit of a restriction, although not much of one. We've got another one here. This is sort of the other way round, so that's got to be the 6 or the 8, that's got to be the 7 or the 9. So now I'm wondering if these have to be... Yeah, okay, this is interesting. The 40 cage we know is missing 2 small digits, so it's definitely got 6, 7s, 8s and 9s in it. Yeah, this is interesting. Right, so is it possible these 15 cages are the same combination? So if this was a 7-8, could this also be a 7-8? Well, the answer I think is no, because by Sudoku you couldn't then place 7s and 8s in those squares, but we know that you'd have to put 7s and 8s therefore into these 2 squares where they would clash. Maybe it's easier if I show it actually. Let's just assume these were the same combination. We know we've got to put 7 and 8 in the 40 cage. So you can see they can't go in those squares, and they can't go here, and they can't go here. So there would be no way of doing this. So I think what we can say, well, we can colour. That's what we shall do. We shall colour these in. These are different. Now, what does that mean? So if this... Well, the problem is that once they're different, you lose all the tension on the 40 gauge, which is annoying. Oh dear. Okay, so I'm not actually sure. I feel like I'm missing something simple regarding this, but I can't see what it is. Sorry, no, that's not... I'm not spotting anything there, so I think we're going to have to look at something different. It's nothing Fistamafel-esque, is it? That's too wide to be a Fistamafel ring. Don't like the look of that. 15, 14. Right, okay. I can lock 1 into one of those 3 squares for what it's worth. Because if you add up those 5 digits, you get 19. 5 plus 14, here is a knowledge bomb, is 19. Now, is it possible to make 5 cells add up to 19 if you don't use a 1 somewhere in these digits? Well, the answer is no. And the way to realise that, or the quick way to realise that, is to know your triangular numbers. Now, I know the triangular number for 6, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, is 21. So all I do is I deduct 1 from that, and then I know that the minimum you could make 5 cells add up to without including a 1 is 20. And of course, 20 is higher than 19, so this would need a 1 in it. So if there's a 1 in here, and there's a 1 in the 7 cage, there's no 1s in any of those 6 cells, so there is a 1 over here. That means that this black Kropki dot is not 1, 2 then. Right, here's something. Here is a small point. The 5 cage here, we don't know whether this is 2, 3 or 1, 4. But we do know that whatever it is, it will have a partner in the 7 cage. So there must be a 2 or a 4 in these 3 cells. And that means that this black Kropki dot cannot be a 2 and a 4. And it can't be a 1 or a 2. So this is either 3, 6 or 4, 8. Which means 6 and 8 will have to occupy these 4 squares. Because if this is 3, 6, that becomes an 8. And if this is 4, 8, that becomes a 6. Okay. Right, so that means that whatever is in this domino... Yeah, here's quite an interesting geometry point. Because we know this is different to this, we therefore know that the 6 or the 8 that's used on the black Kropki dot has a friend here. So this square and this one of those 2 squares is the same. Now we know that whatever that is, whether it's 6 or 8, it has to appear in the 40 cage. Well, where does it go in the 40 cage? By Sudoku, it can't go in those squares, or these squares, and it can't go here because it's in the same box as this cell. So it must go there. So this square is a 6 or an 8, and it has a friend up here, and it's the same as this digit. Maybe I'll make that blue, therefore. And maybe, it's a bit awkward to make both of these blue, but yeah, okay. I'm not actually sure this does anything. I am conscious of the fact I've not got any digits in the grid. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm still not pencil marking the thermometer. Right. What on earth do I do now? Can we do anything with this 17 cage? We do... Okay, well I do know the parity of this, I suppose. Let's use parity to help us. We know that the 3 cells add up to 17. I know that an odd and an even number must add up to an odd number, so that's got to retain the parity of that odd number by being even itself. So that square... okay. That square can't be a 2 because it's too far along its thermometer. So it's 4, 6 or 8. And if it's 4, that would be incredibly powerful because then this thermometer would have to go 3, 2, 1. Oh, and everything would get fixed. This is a 2. That would force a 1, 4. and a 1, 5. I'm just wondering about 1 in this box. I think it would have to go here, which I don't think it can actually. There's something going on, I think, with the 5 and the 6 cages. So maybe I need to put the options in for these squares. This is 2, 4, 6 or 8. And this square, in theory at least, is 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. But this can't be 1, because if it's 1, those 2 squares have to add up to 16, and you can't double 8 them, so that's not going to work. If it's 3, these are 14, and they're a 6, 8 pair, which doesn't work, because that breaks this square. So it's not 3, so this has suddenly become 5, 7 or 9. Oh, this is gorgeous. Right, sorry. Now I understand. Right, what we know is that these are different colours. So this is a 7 or a 9, so let's say it's 7, then we know that's a 9. They're both looking at this square, so this has to be a 5. It's forced. So these have to add up to 12, which means they have to be 4 and 8. That's lovely. Okay, so we are off to the races. We still don't know whether this is a 4, though. Oh, no, we do. It isn't a 4, unfortunately, but we can do exactly the same trick. Look, that's really clever. Whichever one of you came up with this, yeah, my hat is off, because that is beautiful. Again, this and this are different digits. They both look at this square, so this can't be a 6 or an 8. It must be a 4, and that means that's an 8, which means that's a 9, because it's got to be higher than 8 on the thermo. So we get a lot of latitude on the bottom of the thermo, but no latitude at the top of the thermo. This 8 is huge, look, because that fixes the colours down here. So that's 6, 9, which means that's 7, 8, which means that's 6. Now, that might be important. This 7, 8 has fixed this now. So that's got to be 3, 6. And I feel like that's a bit of a breakthrough. This 5, nearly. It doesn't quite create the quadruple I was hoping for in column 8. Right, here's a point though. Let's come back and look at the 5 and the 6 cages. What we can't have is 1 in both of these cages, because if we do, the 1 in box 5 will get plonked on the thermometer there, which would require 0 minus 1 or something like that, which is nonsense. So you can't have 1 in both of those. So what does that mean? So if this was 1, 4, this would have to be 2, 4. And that doesn't work either, actually. If that's 1, 4, because this can't be 1, 5, or you get a 1 here, this would have to be 2, 4, and that requires 2. No, it doesn't. I'm talking nonsense. No, it's only the 4. Sorry, I'm getting confused. If this was 1, 4, this would be 2, 4, and the 4 could go there. If this is 2, 3, this can't have a 2 in it then, for the same reason as you can't have 1s repeated. So if this was 2, 3, that would have to be 1, 5. So there's always a 1 and a 2 in these, but not both. Suppose that means this square can't be a 2, therefore. Oh, that's perhaps not very useful. So it can be 3, it can't be 4, 5, or 6. So is that a 3? Is that what we're learning? That's weird. That is absolutely weird. Hang on, I'm not sure I trust that deduction. I can see this can't be a 1. I think it can't be a 2, because that makes this 1, 4, and this 1, 5, which places 1 here. It cannot be a 2. It can't be 4, 5, or 6. It definitely can't be 7, because I can't put 7.5 on the thermo. It's 3. good grief. And that's going to be massive, look, because that gets us 1, 4 up there, which means we know there's no 1 in here, which means that's a 2, 4. And then the 4, which is the common digit between these weird little dominoes, is fine because it can hide away in the 17 cage. Now that square needs to be 6 or 7 by the looks of things. And this square needs to be 1 or 2. We still don't know what the makeup of the 40 cage is. Okay. 4 must be in one of those squares by Sudoku. 4 must be up there by Sudoku because we've got 4 as a common digit now in this domino and in the 7 cage. Which, is that useful? I'm not sure. Okay, so where do we look now? We've got to find something else to do. Well, we've got a 2. Okay, we've got 2s and 4s common between these cages now. So there's no 2s and 4s in those cages. So we've also got 2s and 4s locked over on the right-hand side of box 9. We've got to place 8 by Sudoku into this square, which means 8 is in one of those 2 squares, which means 8 is in one of those 2 squares. Yeah, that's a nice deduction. You can't put 8 in the 14 cage, because if you do, this domino has to add up to 6. And it can't be 1, 5, and it can't be 2, 4 because of the 5 cage. So that is not 8. That's becoming an 8. So 8 is now in one of those 2 squares. Alright, let's check whether we can put 8 in the 16 cage now. These 2 would have to add up to 8, 3, 5. Oh, okay, that might work actually. 3, 5 looks like it works, and 2, 6 looks like it works. Oh, okay, bobbins. So, where shall we look now then? 6, no. 7, no. 9. If you put 9 in the 14 cage, is that broken? Oh no, you could have 2, 3 in there. No, that's probably not broken. So, right, where on earth do we look now? 3 has become very difficult to put in the 40 cage, but it is still possible. It can go there. Okay, that's no use. Right, I now get the horrible feeling, which happens a lot, that I'm missing something. I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple there, look. So the rest of this column is 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s. We can remove 8 from that one. We can remove 9 from that one. We can remove 6 and 9 from this one, which doesn't seem to do anything. Oh dear, okay. 1 then, let's look at more Sudoku. 1's got to be in these squares. 1. No, I'm struggling here. Is it this 14 cage? Can I do something with that? It doesn't immediately make me think it's likely I can. Does it have to have a 2 in it? If it doesn't have a 2 in it, no, 3, 5 and 6 would be okay. This would be a 6, this would be 3, 5. So it doesn't need to have a 2 in it. Okay, that's no good. Is there... No, that's not a circle, so I can't assume it's odd. 1, 2, 4 here, is that helpful? No. This 18 cage... Oh, 2, 4 there, that's probably it. Sorry, there we go. This comes down to a 1 or a 3, which means this square can no longer be a 1, which means, oh, look at this. So 1 is now in this domino, which means that's a 1. This is a 4. Oh, good grief. It ping-pongs back over here, and we get a 4 there, which fixes the 4 and the 2, which fixes the 2 and the 1, which ping-pongs back down here and gives us a 3. That's hugely powerful. And now look, those 2 squares have to add up to 15, without using an 8. So there's 6 and 9. With a 9 here we can do that. That's 9, that's 6. 9's got to come out of those two squares therefore. And we nearly lock the 6 into the centre. Those squares have got to be 1, 5 and 7. So that's a naked single. That's got to be 1 because it can't be 5 and 7. 5 and 7 are a pair in box 6, and this 5 and 7 point at that square and give us the 6 in the middle. That plonks a 6 at the top. Let's try and keep this going now. These squares have got to be... that square's a naked single. That's got to be a 2 because it can't be a 1 or a 3. Which means this has become a 1-3 pair. And this box still needs 1, 7 and 9. Which again, that's a naked single now. This is 1 and 7. And now we know these 3 squares have got to be 5, 7 and 8, which is probably not useful, but we'll put it in and wonder. And these 2 squares have got to be 5 and 9, which again doesn't seem to be done. And those 2 squares are 2 and 4. Now, what does all this mean? Have we learnt enough about how to finish the rest of the puzzle? That was definitely a good flurry of activity. Still not really finished it though, has it? Is this 14 cage now restricted in a way that it wasn't before? We've now got a 6 in this box. So we've got 10, 19 and 14, that's 33. So these add up to 12 and they're not 4, 8. Right. So that's a 2. Because once you know this domino adds up to 12, you know it hasn't got a 2 in it. That means 2 is in the 14 cage and there's a 2 here. So that's a 2. That gives us a 2-4 pair in box... Well, I've lost my marbles. In box 8 down here. This is a 1-3 pair. That fixes the 1, fixes the 7. There's now a 7 in this domino. There's a 2 up at the top of the grid over there, look. That's a 1-2-4 triple. By uniqueness, we could say that this has to be a 2 and a 4, but we won't do that. So, what does that mean? I can't actually read what that cage is. What is it? 16. So this is 16. Beautiful. That can't be a 6 then. Because if that's a 6, what happens to this domino? It has to add up to 10. But how are you going to make that domino add up to 10 if you can't use 1, 9, 2, 8, 3, 7 or 4, 6? You're not going to be able to do it. So this must be the other way up. This is a 6. This is a 3. This is adding up to 13 without being 4, 9 or 6, 7. So it is 8, 5, I think. So that square loses its option to be 8. And we're looking at a 7, 9 pair here. And there's a 9 over there. So 9 and 7 go in. 9 and 5 go in. Which feels useful. Still don't know what this is. And we need 1, 2, 4 and 5 into those squares, which gives a strange quadruple in this box, look. Oh, this is quite interesting. So there's a 1, 2, 4, 5 quadruple in box 7. There's a 9 and a 7 here. So that has to be a 9, 7 domino by Sudoku, and this can't be a 9 or it's repeating a 9. So that's a 7, that's a 9. 7 is removed from those squares and has to drop into the bottom of column 4. So 7 is removed from these squares. Now, that can only now be 6 or 7. It cannot be 5 or 8, look, because it has to be consecutive. I don't think I used that one being... Oh, no, I did use that to create the relationship between 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s and 5s in this column, I think. I've got a 5, 8 pair in row 8, so that's not 5 anymore. Now, what did this do? Did it do any more than I thought it did? 9. Now, where does 9 go in this box? It can't go here, or it's going to accompany too high a digit for the 14 cage. So it must go there, which means those two squares have suddenly become a 2-4 pair. 2-4 pair in row 9. That's no longer a 2 or a 4. Look at those squares. They are a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 quintuple. So this square's a 1 or a 3 now, because it can't be a 2 or a 4. And this, this is very nice. Yes, I see. This square has to be 1, 2, 3 or 4, but we know there's a 1, 2, 4, 5 quadruple in the box, so that's got to be a 3, which fixes those two digits. Fixes that digit. That's now got to be a 6 or a 7 to make this add up to 13, and there's a 6 here. So 6 and 7 go in, 7 and 5 go in. This square's got to be consecutive, so that's a 5, that's become an 8. That must be a 7 at the top of the grid. 7 is forced into the 14 cage where it needs a 5 to go with it. 9 and 3 add up to 12, so that all looks quite sensible. These squares are 5 and 8, we can do that. Those two squares are 3 and 6, which I should be able to do. That square's a 3. That gets me the 3 and the 1. That's become a 5 all of a sudden. I still haven't got this digit. Right, what's this square then? That's a 6. So I must know that digit as well, because there's a 2-4 pair in the column. Yeah, that's an 8, that's an 8, that's a 5. I think I'm going crazy. Oh, I know what it's going to be. Look, yes, that's lovely. Okay, so we can see now that there's no 3 in the 40 cage. If there's no 3 in the 40 cage, given it's missing 2 cells that sum to 5, there's no 2 in it. So we get rid of the 2's from those squares, and finally we learn how the thermometer begins. And that's probably going to finish the puzzle, I think, because that's all going in to the grid. This 2 is giving us the 2 and the 4. The 4 disambiguates the 1 and the 4, and the 4 and the 2, and we click tick. Beautiful. Very, very enjoyable. And yeah, very nice logic, actually. Very nice logic. I really like what is going on with these two cages, and especially the way these two cages here interact with this 17 cage. That was absolutely beautiful. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. I do read them and enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.